we're doing things right now that I never thought a Division II could do, period. My singular thing I tell every single recruit, I tell my coaches all the time, I tell my coaches personally, my staff, we're going to take care of these kids. We're going to take care of our athletes. Mom and dad better be able to feel good about leaving with us. I still do embrace wanting to look like a strength coach. That's
sure.
one of those things. I do get some administrative work in, and I think we're in a day and age where you don't have to shy away from tattoos as much as you used to 20 years ago. Don't coddle them. These kids need push. They need work. And that only works if they know you care about them.
Yeah.
And so you go back to that whole thing, and it's always going to come back to over and over. We will take care of our athletes emotionally, mentally, physically, nutritionally. I don't care what it is. We're going to take care of them. We're going to be there for them in ways that no one else is.
You're listening to the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast, giving you an in-depth look at Missouri Western athletics with interviews, features, game broadcasts, and more. Here's your host, Tommy Rezach.
Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome back to the Griffin Sports Insider Podcast. I'm Tommy Rezach, Director of Broadcasting here at Missouri Western, and admittedly, it's been a little while since we've set up our little background, our little set here at the Missouri Western Hall of Fame room here at Spratt Stadium, but it's a new year. We're coming up on a new semester during this 2024-25 year, and wanted to, on this show, we want to dive into all aspects of athletics, whether that is the athletes themselves, the coaches, various sports, and of course, we know strength and conditioning, it's paramount here at Missouri Western, in particular, some of the strides and things that have happened in the last couple of years. And with that, we're pleased to be welcomed today by the Associate AD of Sports Performance, Dr. Zachary Fears. Zach, in his second year here, hired in March of 2023. Zach, welcome on. I know you had expressed interest in doing one of these with us, and we're happy that you're here. When you think about where you started coming here almost 2 years ago to the day, March of 23, to where you are now, just how excited are you at the progress that's been made, and how excited are you when you look to the future here at Missouri Western?
So I think that's pretty interesting, because when you interview for a position, when you talk to someone for a position, you kind of get, hey, this is the picture we have. Okay, and that picture is always perfect. And then when you get to a place, that picture starts to unfold, you start to see things a little bit different. The ironic thing here is I think the picture's actually gotten bigger and better. And I don't know the exact reason for that, whether that's my staff hopefully doing a great job and us starting to have a bigger role here. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that's the case, or maybe it's just the fact that we're finding better resources, we're doing things in a different way. Whatever it is, the picture that we had set up when I got here hasn't dimmed like it often does at places. It's actually gotten bigger. I get here and there's so many things being conversed right now of, facility redesign, technology. We're doing things right now that I never thought a Division II could do, period. When that comes to resource management for nutrition, load management, the way we're setting things up, and I say this not as a brag, but I'm very, very big on data. I'm very big on keeping our coaches in the knowledge of whatever's going on with their team, how they feel, how they're performing, how are they sleeping, how are they eating. And once again, I think we're doing things that really haven't been done in Division II, mm-hmm. and some of those things really feed into. So you ask me, where I think we're further ahead than I expected to be mm-hmm. in a lot of ways. I think that started out, we got really good buy-in from coaches, administration, and athletes, right away, and I don't think that hurts. I got bumped up to assistant AD. That gets mm-hmm. me to have a little bigger voice, and I always say this all the time, not as a brag, but it's something I'm really proud of because I get to represent the athletes. Is I get to meet with Andy every single week. Andy Carter, our athletic director, unbelievable leader here, mm-hmm. unbelievable manager here. It's my doctorate's in leadership, so I always sit there and I think about that a lot. One thing that got echoed over and over is there's a very big difference when you look at administrative versus a doctorate in administration versus doctorate in leadership. One's talking very much about management, one's talking very much about leadership, and mm-hmm. a lot of people use those synonymously, and they're not. They're very different. One, hey, are you a good manager? Do you keep things in check? And a leader, do you influence? Do you really motivate people to go do things that they wouldn't normally do? And the one thing I really do enjoy getting to work with Andy and talk with Andy so often one-on-one is I really feel he's very balanced in both of those. And that's a rare thing, especially because, mm-hmm. like I said, I have a doctorate in it, and it's something they talk about a lot. It's really rare to get someone that has that balance. But I think a lot of this goes back to really the top of our leadership and even to the president. when you have a president that, has personally reached out to me, emailed me, does email me, that's rare.
Yeah.
I've never had it before anywhere else, and I've been doing this almost 20 years. And at the same time, she's at a ton of our athletic events. She's seen, she knows our athletes' names. It's a very rare thing, and that's something that does make Missouri Western unique. But trying to go back to like where the vision is, I think it's really kind of comical because we started out like, man, I always want to do this. I've got all these, I've got to have everything planned out. I want to have the facility planned out, what my perfect facility is. I want to have technology lined up. I want to have all these things. How do we load manage our athletes? How do we program for our athletes? I've got to try to get all my ducks in a row, which there's like 60,000 ducks in strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
As a friend of mine once said, strength coaches are pretty much a jack of all trades, master of none. And you get into it and you actually start to realize how many resources we have here. And it's not just it's not all financial. But there's a huge chunk of financial that goes with that. Of how do we we have almost 150 athletes on GPS here, which I know FBS schools that don't have that.
Wow.
And that's really unique. So we can really look at it. And we try to take care of our athletes. And I know we'll talk about this a little bit later, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But that's a big component of what I do here. My singular thing I tell every single recruit, I tell my coaches all the time, I tell my coaches personally, my staff, we're going to take care of these kids. We're going to take care of our athletes. Mom and dad better be able to feel good about leaving with us. And especially from my side of things, like we have to take care of these kids. But you talk about that and you say, like, where is the vision? The vision so far, after almost 2 years, it's actually gotten bigger. The picture is now wider, bigger, deeper in every way. And I think that comes from being able to see progress, being able to see different, not just performance-wise, but attitude-wise. We're on pace to do some crazy things here. I mean, Missouri Western's on, if you're looking at every time we've interviewed countless coaches, and I've talked to them, I said, if you get the real picture and see what we're doing, like, we are going to absolutely blow up athletically within the next few years.
Yeah, I think that goes a lot in what Andy Carter, our athletic director, has talked about, like a strategic plan. What do we look like today, and what do we look like in the future? And yeah, I think we can say, in this era, the last 2-3 years, there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of new people and places put in here. I mean, heck, I started working with the University of 2021, so I feel like I'm still relatively new here. But yeah, it's been amazing to see kind of the transformation and the growth in a lot of areas. And I think in the last 3 or so years, strength and conditioning goes right with that. And that's kind of the purpose of this episode. We're going to talk about some recent happenings within strength and conditioning, and also just get to know this guy a little bit. Dare I say, one of the more recognizable people on our campus. So yeah, we're going to dive into all of that. You talked about getting your doctorate in strategic leadership from Liberty University this past summer. That was within, mere days of the promotion that you got to the associate AD spot in sports performance. And you were telling me to up to 9 or 10 certifications. So a lot of letters next to your name.
Yeah, it's someone once called it alphabet soup. My goal is never to not to go and just get meaningless letters behind my name. Yeah. I think it's like 41 letters or something now. Wow. That's not like a, oh, look at me type thing. But it does turn into, okay, how do I use this to make myself better? I've got a nutrition cert that I just recently got. This one of my more recent ones. And my thought behind that was, okay, we've got all these resources. We've got a lot of nutrition stuff. We don't have a nutritionist yet, so how can I bridge the gap there? And so I went through and did a performance nutrition cert and learned a lot. I think it's kind of wild when we've been doing something for 20 years and you think you have a really good knowledge base on it, and then you work with someone's got a PhD in nutrition, and all of a sudden you realize that was really stupid simple. Why am I not doing that? When you're over here trying to dive a mile deep into something, and they're like, just do it like this. And really simple, but a lot of it comes down to movement patterns. Yeah. There's so many different types of things. When you look like a CAFS or the FRCMS, like, a lot of those just have to do with the body, the planes of the body. Yeah. Body moves, pre-work, post-work. Even how do you set up your program? I have this kind of funny. The way I write programs is very influenced by my FRC cert, and it really comes down to how the body moves. So I have a list, and I make all my coaches have this as well, or they're supposed to at least. There are non-negotiables. So how can you fit all of these movements? Because the athlete body moves in weird motions. And So in order to stay healthy, you need to be comfortable, and your body has to be and really recognize patterns. If you don't go through something, you do something for a long time. Like if I ask you to go run a 40 as hard as you can right now, the odds of you pulling your hamstring is going to go up. So a lot of this goes back to that. But all this, to me, it goes back to how do we take care of these athletes? And everything, it really is. You're going to hear that probably 10 more times when we talk about this. But when we think about these certs, everything funnels back into how are our guys moving. So again, go back to this non-negotiables is that's what a lot of this comes back to. So a lot of those certs actually feed into that. So, I have a cert from, for example, USA weightlifting. Okay, how to utilize our weightlifting, the fundamental true weightlifting techniques, how do we utilize different things like that. So how do we build a program? Because you'll see, for example, you can go down to Texas and find Texas high schools that are, we power lift. Okay, that's great. Let's get a kid strong, cool. But what about the other aspects of it? How are they producing power? How are they producing speed? Because the body is a very, very unique thing. There's very few things you can ever do to simulate something like sprinting. If you want to be fast, you need to do things that are fast. And you can go back and again, look at all those lovely letters that I have. And I have to write them out. I had to write them out for you earlier. I'm like, I don't know. Right, there's a bunch of them. And I thought about making, the guys upstairs, put them all on my card because it'd be funny to try to fit it on there. But no, it really comes down to what we can do to make sure that athlete's being taken care of. Every time you gain knowledge, it really just opens things up. Sometimes it gets a little bit daunting because you're like, I have this much stuff and I have this much time. At NCAA, you get limited time. Yeah. So it's say, I get football for 6 hours a week. How do I manage to make everything work? And then coaches get them for 2 hours. And how do we make sure we balance all that out, that we're not overworking them in one area, and then that they're not doing too much on their own. And so it comes down to a big monitoring system that I'm sure we'll touch base on later. Yeah. Otherwise, we dive into our whole readiness stuff and all that stuff. But yeah, I think the letters, like, to me, are just another way that we take care of our athletes and make sure that they're being well cared for.
Yeah.
So.
Certainly. Talked about already, how Missouri Western kind of stacks up against some Division I schools and our peers in the league, and you kind of have, a mixture of both experiences. You had time spent at Lincoln, Missouri Southern. Lincoln, of course, a former MIAA member, but spent time at Abilene Christian in their strength and conditioning program, and then most recently, before joining us, you were at Division I North Texas. But I was kind of just reading over some pairing articles of yours and, some of the statements that you'd made getting the job in the days since. And you said this was kind of a place that you had admired from afar, working in the state of Missouri previously. What was it about Missouri Western? What is it about Missouri Western that still just kind of appeals to you and your style?
So to kind of backtrack a little bit, the first, real exposure to Missouri Western was my boss at Missouri Southern was actually played here. And he talked very well of it, spoke very, very highly of Missouri Western, even though he was at Missouri Southern as the director of strength and conditioning for, I think it was 12 or 13 years. And, he referred me on. We talked to some people around here. And, I knew a few people back and forth. Back in the day, obviously, we played them in baseball, and they were, we played us in baseball, however you want to say that. But Missouri Southern played
Western
Missouri. There's a lot of redundancy there.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they were really they were good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I remember having that respect. That's one of the first things that pops. Like, man, athletically, they're pretty good at a lot of things. And they're kind of always up there. And then getting to see facilities, you're kind of like, wow, that's impressive. And is everything perfect? No. But it's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
If I could be at Alabama, there's probably something I still want. So. And you start to see, you see facilities, you start to see things. And from afar, I guess my thought is, man, I see a lot of really cool things, but man, what if you just do this little thing? How could that be? I got to Lincoln, and we actually reached out. We had a big group of people, actually. So Northwest Missouri State, we had Missouri Western, a couple other people, but Coach Carbon was involved in that. And Coach Carbon and I got to be fairly good friends. And he knew my background, and I come from a little tiny town in Iowa. If you actually go and look at, life's not easy when you grow up in a little farm in Iowa, and there's a lot to go with it. I won't get into my sob story of how life was growing up with goods and bads and everything, but one thing it did teach me is how to work. But also, you get exposed to that a little bit. You hear a little bit about Missouri Western this, Missouri, you hear about the Chiefs come in and doing this and all these little things, and you kind of start to grow a little bit on it. You start to hear a few things, and I think the one thing you hear is you hear the really, really good things or you hear the really, really bad things about places. You know, so when you're hearing like, oh, man, the Chiefs are talking about coming here. Oh, that's one of those things you're like, no, that's not really happening. Oh, no, all of a sudden this thing pops up and it's real.
Yeah.
And things like that kind of just perk your ears up and you start to think, what are they doing differently there? How did this happen?
Yeah.
And, you know, I could go on and on about that. But one of the things I saw and I did actually talk to a coach when Coach Carbon decided to leave. I talked to a couple coaches, and I'm not going to name drop anyone about what was going on. And at that point, I just got into Southeastern Oklahoma State, and I actually just kind of moved on from it really quick. I thought about it, and I didn't think my time was right there, and I'll kind of leave it right there. But whenever you look at something, you always like, okay, let's check out the facilities, look at the people, let's look at the mission, let's look at the vision. And there were a lot of things that were like, man, that place has some serious potential. And so, lo and behold, a bunch of things happened.
Yeah.
You know, I'm at Southeastern, and some crazy stuff happened. This is kind of funny because I just told this story to a guy an hour ago. And I ended up at UNT. Coach calls me and just basically, hey, have a conversation. It was kind of wild. It was one of those you don't put a job app in type things. And you get called from someone that knows somebody, and that somebody was their intern. It wasn't even someone that was like an assistant or anything like that. And all of a sudden I'm on the phone talking to someone. Next thing I know, I'm talking to another person. Next thing I know, I'm talking to the director. Next thing you know, I've talked to the director 3 days in a row, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of tired of talking on the phone. And you just get offered the job.
Yeah.
And it turned into one of those, you're like, I think I have to take this.
Yeah.
And then actually the football staff got let go about 6 months later there. I retained my position. I worked with some Olympic sports as well, but I also worked the football there. And that was tough. It was a really, really tough situation to see, you know, ultimately the 3 people that pretty much got me there were gone. And so you have to go through, and they end up having some great staff come in. And at that point, I'm working with 3 sports and football. And it was sunrise to sunset every single day pretty much. And it was tough, and I'm not going to say it wasn't. I don't mind that part. And I'd worked with Coach Fenwick at Southeastern.
I was going to say, yeah, did you guys, I assume you probably crossed paths at least once. Yeah.
So, you know, we spent 3.5 years together, 4 years together at Southeastern. And very much respect the way he does things. Yeah. One thing I will tell you about Coach Fenwick is he lets people do their job really, really well. As a strength coach, I value that heavily. I don't like being micromanaged. I have I think I have a wealth of knowledge in certain areas. Last thing I want to be, I'm not going to go play call. I will never sit there and say, Coach Fenwick, why did you not call whatever?
You and me both. Yeah.
Why did you not run power there?
Yeah.
And I have no desire to do that.
Yeah.
I have no desire. And as a matter of fact, I tell my coaches all the time, like, don't critique playing. Critique our side of things. That's not our job. We didn't see what they saw. We don't have in the box. Don't ever worry about that. You know. And I've got, you know, one of my assistants is he's an all-conference Division I linebacker. You know, and I know that he struggles with that because I'm sure he would have done something different. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But stay in our lane. Let them do their job. They do their job for a reason. They're great at it. And you know, we're going to keep building that thing here.
Sure.
But yeah, so Coach Fenwick calls me, and you know, it's kind of a funny story, but he just kind of he alluded to the fact that there might be change here if that happened. And I think he really wanted, like, you know, maybe you shouldn't even put this on camera, but I think he really wanted me to like kind of give if I was interested. Yeah. And he kind of just asked me, hey, if something did happen, do you know anybody that'd be interested? And I was like, Coach, I'm probably interested. You know, there's a lot of things about that. And he said, he said something along the lines of, I was hoping that you'd say that or something like that. And then you kind of wait around and some things happen, and this was probably January. And next thing I know, it's March and I'm here. Yeah. Taking a nice drive. And I remember my first night here, it was like -3 degrees in March. Right. Yeah. Coming up from, it was like 68 in Texas. And yeah, like the first week I was here, it was like blazing cold, and I was living in the dorms. And it was like every day I stayed a little bit later, cleaning the weight room, which was absolutely disgusting when I got here, and rearranging and making it mine. And then I know this story is probably being a little embellished right now. It's like long. You know, I remember, and I told this story just a few minutes ago. It's kind of funny. You know, the first team I worked with was men's basketball, and they came in and they were just, you could tell they were guarded, and there was stuff going on. And so I stopped them and I was like, man, what do we got going on? And I'm like, who wants to be here? Like, I flat out asked that. I said, like, who wants to be here? And kind of look around. And I said, let's turn that situation. Let's stop. Let's flip this. Be honest with me. I'm not mad at all. Who does not want to be here? Half the team puts their hand up.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, all right, here's the deal, guys. I'm going to go crank some rap up. We're going to start screaming, whooping and holler, whatever you want to say. And we're going to have fun today. And we're going to work hard. And I think they all kind of looked around and like, is this guy serious? I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, we're going to have fun. Let's go. But you got to work hard. And it wasn't 10 minutes later, the room was erupting with sound. And that was when that's when I knew, like, okay, I already got this team won over. And they've been like that since. They're great in the weight room. I mean, that team is locked in since we've been here. I mean, day one. You take the first 10 minutes away, and it's solid. Yeah. So I think that's where, like, when everything, and you talk about vision and the future and everything, like, I think that's it's all going to go back to the athletes. Again, we're going to take care of our athletes, but we're going to create an environment. That's part of taking care of them. They're going to create an environment where they want to be in the weight room. And I think that all of our teams feel welcome in the weight room. I don't think they feel like, oh, they need to get out. Like this is football's area, or this is whatever, some team's area. Like I tell them all the time, like if there's 5 square feet over there and you need to stretch and there's a team in there, go stretch. Yeah. I'm not going to be upset that you want to get better while another team's working out, as long as you don't get in their way. Yeah. And no one's using the dumbbells and you want to go hit some dumbbell work, go over there. Just don't get in their way. Like, if there's problems and then we'll have an issue. But I want players and I want coaches and I want administration around me that wants to get better too. And I mean, sometimes you come in and do extra stuff, and that weight room, if you've seen our schedule, it's crazy. Yeah. It starts at 5:30 and we close some days at about 8:30. So it gets busy in there. Yeah. But that's probably a little bit embellishment from what you need, but I think that kind of goes into a lot of that. Maybe I probably went way too far, but
no such thing as embellishment. That's what we're here for, open-ended and diving deep. And that's some of that I had never heard before. So that's great. That was a kind of a crazy time. Coach Fenwick getting hired December of 22, and then you come in just a couple of months later, and here we are. We're both still here ourselves. So yeah, it's been a fun ride for sure. And can I just say on football real fast before we shift gears? When I'm seeing you next to the team, like sunglasses, y'all are marching down the hill, what better entrance in Division II, perhaps all of college football, than what we've got? I mean, and I think, respectfully, if I see you coming off the bus down the hill, yeah, there's a little bit of intimidation factor there, right? I don't know if that's what's intended there, but like it does, you make that look cool. I must, yeah.
So, there's probably some intentionality to my look.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at me 10 years ago, I started shaving my head and growing a beard. Now I just can't grow hair, so I'm obligated. I think it was probably 6 years ago. I got fully sleeved, and that was more of a desire. Like, it's just something I want to do. I literally didn't have a tattoo, and I got a half sleeve over a couple days, and then I told my wife this was kind of a joke. As I said, if everything's a lot of things were starting to roll, and I just got a half sleeve, and it was one of those like, it's kind of cool. I kind of like it. I'm into it, and it was actually a former player, former Lincoln player that does all my tattoos. Wow. So I still staying with that guy, and he's a great guy. Yeah. He's a great tattoo artist, and he's the only person that will put ink on my body my whole life. That's what I promised him. Justice, I got you. But no, so this is kind of a joke, and I told my wife, I was like, man, if I get the Southeastern job, like we're a long ways away, I think I have to get full sleeves, so I don't have to think. And my wife's like, sure, go for it. And so it was like not 12 hours later, the AD offered me the job down there. And so I'm like, we're being serious? And she's like, go for it. And so I sat over, I did every other day. I did an 8-hour session, skipped, 8-hour session, skipped 7 hours, something like that. It was I think it came up to, it was like 29 hours and over a 7-day period. Wow. And so I got fully sleeved. And it was, wow. It was twofold. It was something I wanted to do, and I still do embrace wanting to look like a strength coach.
Yeah, sure.
One of those things, I do get some administrative work in, and I think we're in a day and age where you don't have to shy away from tattoos as much as you used to 20 years ago. Yeah. But then I'm obviously a short, stout guy. I think I look less intimidating when you have my 6'6" tackle behind me and towers up, I'm 5'7".
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's something that motivates the guys.
Yeah.
I don't want to go out there and be the low energy guy. I don't want to, I've got a mission that day too.
Yeah.
Mine's a little bit different than theirs, but I'm going to go and I'm going to keep energy up. I'm going to keep the guys motivated. I'm going to certainly work on keeping the coaches behind the line. You know, don't always succeed there once in a while, but keeping them back, keep my coaches in line. But we have a really big game day tradition too. Our guys are very heavily involved with us. We go through, we do pregame stretches, and I'm not talking about on the field. We do a static stretch before we eat breakfast. We go through, we could do a full activation series. We warm every single guy up individually. That's probably one of the most unique things I think we do. It takes me 4 coaches to run our pregame, which is pretty wild. At a Division II, we travel 4 strength coaches. No one else does that because it takes us that long to set up all of our GPS. We run GPS on every single guy. We have a full pregame stretching routine we go through, activation routine. We traveled 3 the first couple games, and we couldn't get it done right. We were running out of time and struggling with it, so we opted to see if we can get a 4th without really interfering with the other teams, and we made it work pretty well, especially since we went to class on Friday. It made it easier.
Yeah.
Next year, maybe we struggle with that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's a big process, and I think that helps as well. Like, these guys are very comfortable with us, you know, and we do. It's some weird stuff, you know. It's true RPR. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen any of it. It's medically, there's some heavy research behind it, but doing activation behind the jaw, back of the head, you know, low back, stuff like that, of getting the body, so, you know, and guys do feel different on it. There's definitely guys that don't like to do it.
Yeah.
It's painful. Like, you're hitting trigger points every part of the body, basically, and you run a guy through, and your quarterback's, like, when I take our starting quarterback through, it's like a 15-minute routine, and then if say a guy's an injury, we actually go through and reactivate him several times until we feel that group's firing better. And it's nothing if I have 3 guys over an hour period where I'm just sitting there rubbing on, getting this activated, moving this around, and then you know, one of my assistants, Brendan Anderson, he's a level 2 cert, and he's outstanding with it. So he's usually really pinpoint on guys as well. So he and I usually hit the problem children, as we say, you know, the quarterbacks and the guys that maybe had a little tweak here and there, and then my other 2 guys are just running guys through faster than us. But again, it's one of those, we lead that whole game day routine. I think that the culmination is us walking out on the field. After we go through our dynamic warm-up, we keep it high energy. That's one thing we have to do. And you know, I'm going to challenge you guys. I think we need to be higher energy. I think we need to keep moving that up. I think we need to see a lot of that energy be more continuous. You need to, you know, let's break down the lack of continuity from time to time. I think guys have to understand, if they want to win, you got to have that continuous energy. So.
Yeah. A couple of partnerships I wanted to point out as we shift gears. We're covering a lot of ground here today, and that's what we're here for with our Associate AD of Sports Performance, Dr. Zachary Fears. Another thing that happened over the summer, with the help of Biozyme Incorporated here in St. Joseph, the Biozyme Nutrition Station opening up in the Strength and Conditioning Center inside the Griffin Indoor Sports Complex. We put out a press release and a video about it, but just kind of remind us what that is and how big of an advantage that has been.
Well, obviously, first of all, Lisa Norton did a killer job of supporting us on that. I'll always shout out to her, and what an amazing supporter. Probably most important, what an amazing person. Yeah. I mean, if you've watched her support our athletes, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it at this level. I mean, I'm sure there's a handful of others out there, but not many. What an amazing person. And if you talk to the guys she helped support, there's a huge amount of respect there. I mean, it's massive. But ultimately, you know, there's such a big mixture of everything, of the amount she helped us get for this. Gives us a massive opportunity. Our athletes are able to come in and get snacks anytime they want. You know, this isn't just like you get a granola bar, you know, after practice. No, we have stocked up with, you know, we do custom shakes for guys or girls that need to gain weight. If, you know, we don't have FBS money, but we have dang good Division II money. You know? And, you know, we actually mix the exact same gainer matrix, our carb complex, our protein, and everything that we did at UNT here. So we do it the exact same way we did there but we have the opportunity to give any of our athletes who need to gain weight extra. Like if we need, okay, you got a workout, let's get you some extra carb complex, so throw some powder in there, blend it, protein powder. We have a huge supply of chocolate milk in there, and then we cover up our countertop with snacks for them, and different snacks. It's not like you just get granola bars. Like we've always got some good carbs in there. So a lot of times what happens if you look at our schedules is we'll have athletes practice for 2 hours. They get a 10-minute break and they're coming lifting. Well, let's get them some fuel in the body because we know it's going to break down and they need something in there. And so it's offered us the ability to, number one, keep our weight up for guys. You know, and girls, I shouldn't just say guys. Keep our body weights up so we're not losing weight. The easiest way to not recover is weight. Means your calorie intake is not what it needs to be. It's not meeting if what you're burning is not meet your intake, you're going to, lose weight or gain weight depending on how you balance it out. And that's one of the most important things is, I can tell you right now, this year with football, we did not lose much weight. We did very well maintaining body weight, and that already shows signs of progress. And our basketball guys, we're seeing much better weight gain from. We have, I mean, if you look at, like right now, look at our softball team. It is probably the most fit softball team I've ever seen in my life. Those girls do a great job. They've utilized that well. And it's not like, and I say this respectfully, it's not like they're over there, it's not like we're spending tens and tens of thousands of dollars on them. They're just utilizing it well. They take care of themselves well. Yeah. And I think that's something that really speaks volumes for, Nicole, obviously, Coach Thompson done a great job. Yeah. She just expects those girls, she's recruited great girls. And, I think you say the same thing for our women's basketball team. And you say for a lot of our teams is they look like they're just in better shape. They're fit. They're more athletic. And I think that, I say that obviously respectfully, not in a disrespectful way. Yeah. I think a lot of that comes back to nutrition. You start to invest in it more. They feel like they need to put better stuff in their body. We're trying to educate them better and better. And, I think one thing that we're still working on, and it's the toughest part of it, I think, is Lisa really talked heavily about educating as well. And that's tough when you're trying to get 400 student athletes educated. And on top of balancing 6,000 things, as a strength coach. But I know nutrition is obviously paramount. That's a huge thing. I always utilize, nutrition is not just a part. It's really the base because your body's literally formed of all the stuff you take in. If you're putting crap in your body, it's built of a poor foundation. But if you start to get fundamentally sound food in your body, it changes everything. And putting that at the right time, all that stuff changes. Why do you need this post-workout? Why do you need this pre-workout? All that type of stuff does make a big difference, and that has allowed us to keep our weight up, get our lean body mass up. It's body fat down, performance up, injuries down because we're recovering better, and that's really what it comes down to. And that will all go right back to my philosophy, which we'll kind of touch base on in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And then one other local partner here, the Clark's Custom Meats Company. This is a deal that we just learned about within the last few days. A 2-year agreement to basically provide meat to our school, to our athletes. And I know this ties in with like a goal of, it's like what, it takes about 1 million calories in a school year to feed all of our athletes. Just tell us about this partnership with Clark's.
So, what it really comes down to, basically, when you're looking at what they can offer and the amount of money they're going through, one thing for me is there's one thing to have snacks, there's another thing to have different types of availability. It's really easy to find carb snacks. It's really easy. This gives us a different opportunity. It gives us a different angle at it. And they do a plethora of things. They even have like shelf-stable meats, sticks, anything like that, which is obviously high protein. Tastes good. I don't think too many athletes are going to be like, oh, beef jerky's not good, or beef slims aren't good, or even the ability to have ground beef to make burgers. We're going to do a lot over the summer within our athletes that are here this summer because a lot of those coming in need to gain weight, maintain weight, and we're pushing pretty hard in the summer because a little bit more open hours and the availability is different. And what this allows, what it actually does with the 1 million calories is, depending on how we basically purchase, if you want things a little bit more expensive, but how we looked at everything, I decided, I was like, okay, let's see how many calories I can get with this, because if you break it down, about 4,000 calories is going to be a pound of body weight, and okay, that's a lot. Yeah. Well, this deal allows us to add about 1 million calories to our student athletes every year.
Okay.
So if you want to break that down, you can do the math if you like to. It's a tremendous amount of body weight we can either maintain or even gain. You look at certain, maybe our 5 in basketball skinny, we need to put more weight on them. Well, okay, this has a lot of calories in it. If you look at meat products, it tends to be very high in calories. Not only that, it's got good fat in it. We need that saturated fat. That stuff does good things for the body. It's good for the joints. There's a bunch of other stuff it does. And obviously lean protein. If you want to build muscle, you have to give it the building blocks. Protein is a building block of muscle. And in addition with that, you just sit there and I go back to if we're not maintaining weight, we're not recovering. We know that. And this, a million calories changes how you can maintain weight. And last time I checked, and I think Coach Fenwick and Coach Throck would agree with me, we don't like small linemen. So when you get a guy in, and Dylan Niles might be a great example, one of our freshmen.
Yeah.
We recruited him at 230 pounds. We got him in the summer at 260. Wow. We had to stop his weight gain because he had 318 pounds. A lean 318 pounds. He's well under 20% body fat, which is abnormal. Now he put weight on. He's abnormal. That's not usual.
Yeah.
But, you want to break that down. That's 50 pounds plus he gained. Well, you do that in the calories. You start to talk to a lot of calories he had to put on. Well, a lot of those came from us. We were able to give him a huge amount of those. Our athletes over the summer are able to walk out with several thousand calories every day, and depending on what the needs are, we're able to give those athletes. And I want to point this out. It's not just football. I think people always sit there and talk football terms. It's not just football. I'm not just football.
Yeah.
I direct over all sports.
Yep.
That is important that whether it's cross country or football, whether it's tennis or golf, it doesn't matter to me. We need to take care of these kids. We need to educate them. We need to make sure they're getting quality nutrition, quality programming, and that's top to bottom. I always tell my coaches is treat every team like they're your football team, because everybody puts importance on football.
Yeah.
But treat every team like they're your football team, and they should be. Because at the end of the day, we got 400 student athletes. Now I got 5 coaches, which is abnormal as well. We have the highest ratio of full-time coaches to athletes in the nation.
Huh, I did not know that. Wow.
It's quite high, actually. It's abnormally high compared to the second.
Yeah.
Again, go back to the vision of Andy Carter, who believed in development. And I think that's something that's pretty wild when we have a roughly 70 to 1 ratio. That's pretty abnormal. Yeah. That being said, again, we take care of our athletes. It all goes back to that. And Andy buys into that, and I wouldn't be here if he didn't. And I think that president buys into it. And obviously, when you're working with as many coaches as I have, I've got to direct them very well. I've got to do all that lovely side of things where I'm still the weird person because I'm a coach and I'm an administrator.
Yeah.
I'm the only one here that does that. So there's a heavy level of directing my staff, coaching the athletes, and then getting to sit there and understand the vision and how do I do my part to make sure Andy's vision is brought to life in this athletic department. And I think that nutrition station is a cornerstone of it, getting our athletes where we want them to be. Because, man, I'll tell you one thing, not winning hurts people want to give. People moving forward, like, why would we invest in something that's a sinking ship?
Yeah.
And, I really feel we're the opposite here right now. I think it's a great time to invest in. If you go talk to Donnie, obviously, I think everyone thinks so too, because it seems like Donnie keeps working all his magic and getting one deal after another, or maybe he just likes money,
Yeah, Donnie Fox, Winter Jacobs, our Peak Sports Properties representatives who work with us here at the university. Yeah, they do a terrific job. They help me out on the radio side because they give me the money they make makes it possible for me to yap live during games, which of course we love to do that. I remember the first time I met you, it was the day before the Central Missouri game 2023. I was out at practice. I was in the GISC. I was doing interviews with a few players. And first off, you're very polite and welcoming, but I also just noticed like high energy, laser focused, very intentional. And I always think, that some of that starts with like home life routine. I'm curious, like you obviously keep yourself in terrific shape. How do you start your day each day?
That's actually funny. I have the same routine every day. And it may not be the exact same time, but I always get up and I start with breakfast. And then I may not necessarily go into work. I typically do Sundays. I'll go to church first, then I go to work. But to me, it's always about getting myself focused. Usually when I get into season, I'm a lot better. When I say season, I mean off season and season. Over break, I'm actually pretty bad about my routines as far as sleeping. I probably need to do better with that. I get so many projects going on. I kind of get busy with stuff.
You do like a little woodworking on the side.
I do. I actually do quite a bit. I've
cool.
redone my entire house.
Wow.
So I bought I'm going to say renovated house. There's a lot of things I didn't like about it. So I went through over the last 2 years and I redid every single room in my house. I have not touched the bathrooms yet because I don't know what to do with them. But every single bedroom has a custom bed, headboard, footboard, custom built-in desks, reach-in closets, custom closets, every single thing like that. So every room has been customized how the kid wanted it or how I wanted it, how my wife wanted it, whatever that be. Barn doors, all the works.
Oh, yeah.
Laundry room, family room, living room, dining room, kitchen, everything. Everything's gotten done, and it's the way I want it. So I'm kind of picky on things, and my staff knows that. If you go look in the weight room right now, there better not be speck of dirt on the floor. Keep it very clean in there. It's always tidy. The very first thing, and this kind of goes back to routine.
Yeah.
I went through and stripped down the weight room my first week here, and I moved everything. I remember having to move the dumbbells 5 feet to the left because I didn't like where they were by myself, and no one was here, and it was spring break when I started. And so I moved everything, I got everything, and I lined everything up, and I had everything perfectly in line. And at this point, I'm the only one here. Almost everyone's out, and I'm just slowly trying to catch people here and there. No one's around, so they're just clean, reorganize. How do I make this room mine? And I'll never forget this, and I understand how important this is, especially after it was said. But Andy walked in the room, and he looked, and he goes, "Those benches are perfectly in line." I was like, yes, that's how this room needs to be. When you have a room set up a way, and the talk of trying to get a room taken care of, we want a brand new facility, we want stuff like that. Why would anyone give me additional stuff if I don't take care of what I have? But most importantly, obviously, the room we have is a pretty nice room overall, but we have some stuff we need to change in there, and hopefully to make it better for how I want the facility ran, which makes things a little bit smoother. But if a recruit comes in and they see things disorganized, they may not completely notice it, but they're going to, something in the back of their mind is going to say, okay, there's disorganization here.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, is never give someone a reason to say no. The first thing you have to do, whether you're recruiting them, whether you want to get on the playing field, whether you want a job, you can't give them a reason to say no. And I think when it comes down to it, you take, Andy, for example, and I say, man, I want a new room. Well, you don't take care of the one you have. Why would I give you a new room? You're not going to take care of that one.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. I've seen coaches get brand new rooms, and it's still disorganized and not taken care of. It's not going to change. Like I said, I have a nice room. I have a good room.
Yeah.
I would like to have an elite room. I would like to sit there and be able to say, man, I have the nicest setup in Division II. And I think we're well on the way to that. But there's a few more signatures that have to be done. T's got to be crossed, I's got to be dotted, but everything takes time. I understand that. But it goes back to the routine is you set it up. You set it up. Nothing's accidental. Nothing's coincidental. I mean, I was talking to our lacrosse team yesterday as we transition a new coach in. I get to run lacrosse workouts, which is fun to make them be a little bit, get them at high energy, get them focused up, get them, it's good to be able to work with all teams. I try to talk to every single team every year, every semester, and make sure they understand who I am, what my goals are, that they're going to be taken care of. And I told them, I said, we did a little ab exercise. We do basically casino abs or chance abs, whatever you want to say. As I say, I line them all up, and I think this works better with female teams, by the way. They love just doing abs and burning abs. If you do it with football, they hate it. I've done it with football once or twice, but I do it with female teams a lot more. They all line up right down the line of our platforms, and they pick an ab movement. And I flip the coin. They call it. They get it right, I move on to the next person. So lacrosse went down the line. I think they went about 50-50, which is pretty good. Yeah. I've had it where a team got one wrong or one right, and you had to just do abs all day or you're almost done immediately. They were probably 50-50 though. And I talk about it, and you flip a coin 1,000 times. It's not going to be perfect. It's usually $4.99 and $5.01 or something like that. But as you start to train and you start to build those habits and you start to build that routine, you start to weight the coin, and it's no longer 50-50. Now all of a sudden I'm flipping it, it's 490, 510. Oh, now I'm flipping this a little bit weighted. This is now like a cheater's coin. Now it's 600 and 400. But as you build that routine and you get better and better, those things start to stack up and build in your favor. And it's no longer, it's not a 50-50 chance. Like, oh, where do we come out today? 50-50. No, it starts to become this is how it is. And that's all based off routine. It's all based off habits. And I think I had a pretty long conversation with Andy about this a couple weeks ago, actually. And so that's where it comes down to. Routine starts to weight the coin. It's no longer a 50-50 shot of, man, if this happened, this could happen. No, it's if this happened, this does happen, or this is very likely to happen. I've said this 100 times, and I say to some athletes all the time, I don't believe in luck. Like, everyone's like, well, they got lucky. No, they did not get lucky. If you practice something a million times, you're gonna get pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And then there's the chance of this could just sometimes happen. That's what people think of luck. I mean, luck is a combination of chance of, yes, if I throw up a ball, there's a 10% chance the receiver's gonna catch it when he's guarded by 4 guys. Well, if I work on that a little bit more, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 20. It's probably never gonna be 100 when you have 4 guys around you, but how many games this year have we seen in the NFL or college where that was a Hail Mary and it just got popped up? And I think it's 3 or 4 times this year I've seen it happen. But you practice that once in a while. You probably practice a little bit more. You probably get a little bit better at it. But again, setting up the routine starts to pull that, that quote unquote, the chance rises, and then the luck is, I don't do that. And I might say it every now, I might say the word luck, but I don't think anything, you don't luck into anything.
Yeah.
There's a chance, like this happens, and then as your skill rises, that chance gets higher and higher. So, there's a chance we win conference next year right now.
Yeah.
If you were to sit there and say, maybe it's 12%, maybe it's 4%, maybe it's 50% in whatever sport. Well, as we work harder and harder and we get better routines, that just goes up and up and up.
Yeah.
We recruit better kids. We, everything like that. Everything starts to build that up. And what ends up happening is it's not luck. We didn't get lucky there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an odd way of looking at things, but that's kind of how I think of routine is you're either building or you're not. I don't really think there's like, I say this all the time, and there's people like, well, you're either getting better or you're not, or you just kind of stay. I don't think of it that way. You're getting better or you're not. I don't think there's like, oh, I stayed still today. Well, you didn't move forward though, and they did. Somebody got better today, which means you actually went backwards. The average went up, your average did not. So maybe that's a slight negative way of looking at it, but I kind of think of what did you miss out on? Hey, you didn't eat breakfast today. Oh yeah, you didn't gain that extra half pound you need to gain. Maybe that's what it took for you to be a starter this year. Maybe it's just that half pound.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just that 5 pounds you were down over that guy. Maybe it's that one workout session you missed that gave the coach the reason to say no. All of those things add up. Routines add up. And that's, so, my morning routine is I was going to eat breakfast. That is pretty much a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I get up at 4 most days.
I was going to say, you strike me as an early riser.
Very early.
Yeah.
I have kids that like to stay up too late sometimes. They're getting older and they're getting better at it. But I try to set everything up, so I try to have everything as ready as I possibly can, so I can stack my clothes and everything.
Yeah.
So I can just jump up, get changed real quick, and get started and everything so I can get in. So right now I think I'm this next at least 8 weeks when we start this semester, probably about, I'll probably have to be in at 4 if I want to get workouts in myself, because I've got, I think I have 11 hours of football I have to run most days.
Yeah.
When we look at our pro days guys, I'm running all their programming as well. I think that they deserve that. They've earned that in my book. So I run all that, write all that for them. We had some guys show out really well last year. We've got a couple guys I'm training right now that I think can really show out again. And obviously that makes us look good.
Yeah.
But then we have a makeup football group in the morning, which right now is pretty big because the way we run our classes kind of spread out a little bit different. So we get quite a few morning guys, and we have the full afternoon group, and you have setup, tear down, breakdown, data. As I talked about earlier, I'm a data freak.
Yeah.
I record every single number. In season for football, we record about 13,000 data points per week.
Wow.
And then you have to sift through those and figure all that stuff out to try to pinpoint, hey, this guy's got a little bit too much load going on, this guy's underloaded, something's going on with this guy, stress levels seem high, all that type of fun assessments and all that fun stuff we do with those guys. But there's a lot of things that go into it. And I try to peel back those layers and keep diving into it. And I don't think you'll ever get 100% in there, but again, it's the routine. I think I'd always improve on that. I think the one thing that struggles as I get busier and busier is I end up reading less. I have a stack of probably 50 books on my desk right now that I went through over winter, which was easy. I do a weird system though. Like I do a lot of highlighting and stuff like that when I read a book, so I can go look back through and find exactly what I want. And I do level highlights. So like the first time I read it, I highlight it one color. The second time I do it another color, so I kind of know where my state of mind is. That makes it easier to find my stuff. So I have a lot of systems, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
I say this over and over, and I talk to people when I'm a system guy. I create a system, you follow the system, buy into the system, sell the system. You know, that's athletes got to buy into the stuff, and when they start to see it's very routine, most athletes buy into that. Coaches buy into it. Administration buys into it. Routine really does sell because you're not going to ever be good without a solid routine because it's random.
Yeah.
And no system is random. It's programmed. So.
Well, you talked about, looking organized and appearing organized, but then being organized. I think that all ties into what you're saying right there. It's consistency. It's kind of following some guidelines right there. Yeah, kind of tying this all in. You're talking of philosophy, and we've mentioned that throughout. You said taking care of the athletes being paramount. I mean, is the philosophy as simple as that? Is it beyond that? I guess how would you summarize that?
So this is actually something I have to get done over the next few weeks. It's a big goal of mine was to actually get this put on the website. And I've done a poor job of that. That's an admission right there. But our number one point, and I blend, I'll say this right now, I blend philosophy, vision, mission kind of all together. And I talk about this. They're all separate, but for the sake of it, let's just call them all one right now.
Yeah.
But the number one thing I say all the time, every recruit to all of our athletes is we will take care of you.
Yeah.
I promise mom and dad when they're coming here with their kid, we're going to take care of them. We're going to do that better than anyone around. We're going to do that better than anyone at this level, and that's a promise. If it's not, I'll put my resignation on A's desk tomorrow. And I do believe that. And I don't mean this as a threat. I always talk to my coaches about this, is if you can't do that, you need to go. If you can't take care of our athletes, that's our single biggest point. You can't work for me. I know that sounds negative. I don't mean it as a negative. I mean it as a positive to our athletes. Everything's centered around our athletes.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, number one, I'm way too old, and at this point, you don't want me playing out on that football field. Number two, I'm 5'7". Like I'm maybe a running back at best. I don't know. I'm 210 pounds. I don't think I really got much else in me. And if I put my head into a guy, this number one, targeting is way different. I used to lead with my helmet, But you really think about it now, like we can't do it. They have to. And the best way to do that is create buy-in and create that you got to hold them accountable too. It's not like you messed up, this is great. No, like you got to hold people accountable. There's tough things that have to happen. You got to be honest with guys. And I think guys understand really quick, when you're really honest with them, they know that at least they can come to you. And it may not feel good. Like being told you jack something up and you just laying it on them is not common these days. Like, kids don't need to be told how amazing they are and how, you need to talk about how hard to work. You got to get that side of things. So, we'll sit there and tell them you're so special, and like, don't coddle them. These kids need push. They need work. And that only works if they know you care about them.
Yeah.
And so you go back to that whole thing, and it's always going to come back to you over and over. We will take care of our athletes emotionally, mentally, physically, nutritionally. I don't care what it is. We're going to take care of them. We're going to be there for them in ways that no one else is. And I don't take that lightly. I take that very serious. Again, kind of echoing a conversation I had a while back, but if a kid messages me, I don't care, a dumb question, and I send something back sarcastic and I get on that kid may close to me forever. It may be that one conversation where like, man, he doesn't care about me. Now, if it's the right kid, you can jab at him, obviously. But as we start to work through kids, you got to give them a reason to buy in. Well, I have to ask myself the question, first of all, like, kid sends me a weird question or something that's almost like, that's a pain. I have to ask myself, like, am I doing right to take care of this kid? Is this something, first of all, if it's unreasonable, it's unreasonable. Yeah. But is what I'm doing right to take care of this kid? And that's something where if I can sit there and say, no, I'm not taking care of that kid, then I need to, let's just be real. I need to own up, pony up, and do my side of things. Like I said, and that's the expectation I have of my staff as well. Don't treat these kids as a burden. They're not a burden. They're a blessing on us. And it's something as simple as, and this goes all over strength and conditioning media is, coach, how many reps do I have on this exercise? It's something along the lines. Look at your sheet. Like, just tell them they have 10 reps. Who cares? Yeah. It's not that big of a deal. Everyone, like when I'm working with a group, and my coaches, they always have the sheet in their pocket of for, we run a ton of different programs, but they always have a sheet that says how many reps they have on it. It's not that, like 12, put it back in your pocket. Don't treat these kids like, they're dumb fourth graders. Just tell them they have 10 reps, who cares? Not that big of a deal. And, could they look at their sheet? Yeah, but they might be across the room working doing something else too. Like for them to go back, that's just a waste of time. And it was just tell them they've got 10 reps or 12 reps or 3 reps, whatever it may be. It's not that big of a deal. And it goes back to how are you going to treat them? And, the other points, you get into some typical, strength conditioning philosophy. We do have to increase performance. We do have to increase performance. We have to make better athletes. We have to make less injured athletes too. And how you go about doing that is a little bit different. We do it, I think, differently in a lot of Division II schools. We do a lot of load monitoring. The majority of our teams and coaches have either readiness, KPIs, or anything like that tells where the athletes are at. We do a lot of jump monitoring, load monitoring. Our football probably has the most in-depth load monitoring system for sure in Division II, if not one of the best I should say best, I don't want to pat myself on the back that much, but one of the most in-depth systems in the nation. And we take a ton of things into accountability. We take assessments, basically high scores, low scores, things that they need to be doing well, things that they need to be not doing. Hopefully their stress and their soreness and that stuff's low. Hopefully their nutrition is high, their hydration is high, meals are high, stuff like that. And we balance those out. And if a guy's not sleeping well, they get flagged. Why are you sleeping 4 hours a night? That's not going to work. That does not build championship. And then, this guy's jumps are down heavily. You look into that, and that creates okay, we have to look at that kid neurologically. Is something wrong? Did he sprain his ankle? Is his hamstring tight? Look at that so we can get that figured out, whether we need to send him to the athletic training room, whether we need to take care of it ourselves, whether they need to back off some volume with the coaches. We can get that to them. And that's another way of taking care of the kids. And that gives them I don't want to say anything. Well, something's going on. We need you to play on Saturday the most. At the end of the day, if you get the choice of, okay, I want to practice on Tuesday or play on Saturday, I think every coach is going to go to Saturday. And I think that's important. That's one way we kind of continuously take care of our kids is by continuously getting data to the coaches. Coach Moore had a stack of the whole season that he showed to the recruits, and he literally was like that with it. They get readiness scores every single day, GPS scores every single day. I think that's important so we know where guys are at. Like, why does this guy have this crazy high load, or what's this guy's average load with our GPS, or jumping, assessments, anything like that. So that allows us to really cater to the athlete of, like, sometimes it's just, the athlete's not going to say it, so walk up to the coach and be like, we need to back him down for the day, or, like, what's your thoughts on this, or talk to the coach. It's the one thing I want to make sure that, clarify with that. It's not like me trying to rule over the coaches there. So let's work together. Let's make sure we need our best kids out there on Saturdays or Fridays or whatever it may be. But if that kid gets injured on a Wednesday, he's probably not there on a Friday, Saturday. And so working together can really help us maximize performance and then get those injuries down. And, it's also weight room, good selection, exercise selection, making sure that, if you understand how the hamstring works and, 3 core motions it does, then it's easier to train that. If you sit there and neglect that and just say, oh, the hamstring does this, then, okay, you train it one way, but the hamstring moves in a lot of different ways, so we have to make sure to train it that way. And you look at that just about every single point. Talked about non-negotiables earlier. I think my non-negotiable list is 42 movements. How do I fit 42 movements in every single week? Well, get creative with warm-ups and post work and during the lift and all that stuff. But that's a long conversation right there, so I won't get too crazy with it.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, you've been very generous with your time, and we certainly appreciate it. And that was great. And the big thing for me entering this world, like within the athletic department, coming from the media world, is like how many people it takes, to, you talk about taking care of kids, enhancing their experience. You kind of know about that in the media world, but I feel like as a media guy, it's like perhaps we're a little selfish. It's like, they go through all the trials and tribulations. It's like, well, we're after we want to talk to them. We need the quote. We need this. We need that. And obviously, there's great people in sports media that do that stuff. But coming here, the last 6 or so months I've been in-house, it's like, wow, you just don't realize how many it takes to, not only get them on their campus, but then take care of them and do all the things that it takes to make them perform well on those game days. Yeah, Coach. I mean, this was a wide-ranging. I knew it would be. Really have appreciated the time. I'm curious though, just as we wrap this up, you talked about your tattoos. I'm curious, any significant meaning behind those?
Yeah, actually, they're all religious.
Okay.
So the very first tattoo I got was this. This is it's basically the armor of God is the representation. If you actually go and look at the majority of them, I actually have 2 angels on my forearms. I have so it's basically a forest. The whole idea of the forest is if you actually look at it, it kind of works backwards. There's a rough path that actually leads to a meadow, working backwards forward. And there's actually an easy path that leads to a thunderstorm on the back. It's kind of a symbol of, I knew my life wasn't meant to be an easy path. I knew that from starting young. And I know that my experience has given me an opportunity to be able to interact and work with kids that maybe didn't come from the best background and be able to relate with that. And I'm not going to sit there and give you my sob story or anything, but I knew life wasn't meant to be an easy path for me. And I knew that I don't want given anything. I don't want to just be gifted, and I don't want to work for it and appreciate it. And I've seen people given and fail to acknowledge what they had because it was so easy to achieve. And it's the whole, you win the lottery and half those people are bankrupt in 3 years or whatever it is. I don't want to be that person. I want to earn that money. I want to earn that whatever title. I want to earn whatever that is. That's how I came in here when I was, hey, I want to earn the assistant AD job. That was actually one of the first talks I had with Andy. And he said, come and do a good job and you'll get it. And so that's why I want to prove things. And so that's a huge part of it. I actually have my wife and my kids here, a big F right there. I'm not gonna lie, my daughter's not on there yet. I need to get her put on there. And then one thing I have an obsession with. Yeah, I have the other part of it that's not actually religious is I have mandalas to work in with the angels and tie in some empty space there, and that is it's about balance. If you look at mandala, it's a perfectly balanced piece, however that may look, and it might be a partial mandala or whatever. By the way, that was a fun one to get. That thing hurt.
Yeah.
I handled it fine, but that right there in the ditch of the elbow, I tell people was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. But it comes back to balance, and I think that's really, if you think about it, for me, it's a lot of athletes. It's balancing. If you look at a healthy athlete is a balanced athlete. Sleep to training, front to back, side to side. You look at the body, it's got to be balanced well or it gets injured. There's life in that too. Yeah. There's that odd, which is kind of funny coming from me because I don't know that I really always am balanced. I'm I go. I feel like I have to do things 24/7. Yeah. I get twitchy really easy, but my balance comes from a lot of religious focus, and I think that's the majority of my tattoos aren't religious though, and that was the one thing when I decided to get them, where I kind of pushed over the edge. Was like, if somebody judges me for religious tattoo, my belief in God, then I don't want to work for that person. I don't want to work with that person, and they're certainly not offensive. They're meant to have a a story behind it. Like I said, that very, very religious component, and then a story of my life, and I sit there and I keep saying I'm gonna get this done too because I have the chest and back and everything, but I don't have the full wrap around the stomach yet. And I don't know why I don't want any of my legs, but I haven't found the meaning I want. And everything to me has to have a meaning. Yeah. And like I said, I've got the one guy I go to. I'm not going anywhere else. And I kind of tell him the story and my thought and some things I like, and he just seems to throw things together and like yes, let's move that. Perfect, let's go with it. And that's like I said, it was kind of done really, really fast, but I had thought about it for a very long time. Yeah.
How many total are there then?
It's only one. It just starts here. And it's here.
It's just all big one.
It's all together. I just tell people I only have one tattoo.
Okay.
I just have I don't know what it is. It's 41 hours or 48 hours or something like that. I used to have it written down, but I forget now. But just a lot of times sitting on the table watching movies and hearing that bzzz.
Yeah.
And I forget what it was. I had the whole figure out of how many times I've been pricked with a needle, and it was like 30 million times or something to get this many tattoos because it's a lot. But no, it's kind of become part of me. When people see pictures of me without tattoos, they're like, "Who? That looks weird." I agree. I think it looks weird too. Even I know. And go back another 15 years, you can find me with hair and maybe a thin goatee or no facial hair, a little patch. And
well, there's even significance here. You said you haven't shaved this in over 7 years.
Yeah. So last time I shaved was September 3rd, 2017. So I maybe trim the side a little bit, but it's just kind of been a thing. And I get asked, I don't know how many times a week, like, are you ever going to shave it? And I say, I'm going to shave it when I'm no longer a strength coach. You know, if I decide to ever be an athletic director, get into full-time administration or anything like that, then I'll shave it and I'll restart. That'll be a new phase of life. But as a strength coach, it's going to stay there until no longer there or some tragedy happens and I lose it. It's, it's almost as old as my, as my second born. So it's kind of.
Is that your ambition? Do you want to be an athletic director, or?
I think I want to get in that eventually.
Okay.
I think that, I went through and got my doctorate, and
it
was the original. It's funny. The original plan was to actually probably by now be into it, and then I got challenged when I was at North Texas by one of the assistants there. And I mean this in a positive way, but he challenged my knowledge in a way that I want to say almost offended me. Not enough to be mad at him, but enough to offend myself. He knew stuff I didn't know, and it kind of reinvigorated my desire to get back into learning. And I'd spent years working on the leadership side of things, especially doing a doctorate in leadership, and I realized I think my knowledge had slipped a little bit. And so I take that as a challenge. I take it as a friendly challenge and a good competition of, okay, this guy knows something I don't, and quite frankly, that pisses me off. I can't handle being around someone that's just way better. Like that's a competition. Like, if I don't want a non-competitive coach or anyone around. Like I want to be someone that's around the best. And so he did that, and so I absolutely dove into anything and everything I could that we would talk about, and to understand how he was thinking on that. And that's where that's where I really fell back into it, and to the point I'm still there. Like I've gotten to do so much more research on it. Like there was a point where I was like, man, I have to stop this for a little bit so I can finish my doctorate, because everything's slow moving to your thesis and a doctorate. It's like waiting for approval. Like I waited 3 months for my study to be approved.
Wow.
It's just part of it. And, that's kind of, in a nutshell, was like I planned on being out of it by now, and then I got really, really back into it and started enjoying it even more, probably than I ever have. And as I get back into it, and I got more knowledgeable, and I think my investment went higher into it, and then it turned into that, like, man, I'm just not ready to leave there yet. I'm not ready to do that yet. And I had at least a couple opportunities to interview for places, and I'm like, no, I'm having way too much fun doing what I do. Like I'm not ready to be the old guy that's not in the weight room yet. These kids keep me young. They challenge me. I've still got some athleticism left. It's not what I was when I was 20, but I still take it as a little bit of a challenge to maintain the ability to hang with them. And I think I got 10 more years in the tank, and I think I got to get out of there. A few injuries stacking up these days, but I think that's the thing with the doctorate and all that leading forward. Eventually I think administration's there, but I also think I'm just enjoying what I do too much right now to say, let's go and do that side of things. And I sit there, and I think the thing, if no matter what I do, as long as I'm passionate about it, I think that's okay by me. And right now my passion is the athletes, and the best way to take care of the athletes is to be with them a lot, and to, once again, make sure they're taken care of. And that comes back, and when you get the texts, when you get those, kids that have gone through things, and, I had an athlete that had gone through some major mental issues from how she was treated. And I'll never forget, we talk regularly still, and she messaged me, I think it was a week ago, 10 days ago, and she said, I would have never made it. Like that was how the text started. And I'm like, and that's why I'm still doing this, because there are the people, and when someone has that, it does reinvigorate the fire. It creates that, like, there's a reason why I'm doing this. This isn't just, it's not to just win games. It's not for, like, just to get a paycheck. There's way better ways to get paychecks than to go work, some 100-hour weeks and travel and do all these crazy things. But to me, that comes down to, you take care of these athletes, it comes back on you. And, I was saying before this interview of, like, getting random texts from athletes. I had an athlete I had, 3 years ago. I lost a family member, and, he messaged me, like, how you doing, coach? That's a huge loss. I lost my dad a while back, and I can relate. And, things like that matter. I think that you were there for them, and now they're reverberating back, and they're there for you. And obviously at a tough time when you're vulnerable. So.
I think, there's times, like, I find that on my job when, I think anybody in any industry, it's like, sometimes you're in a rut and you're like, why am I doing this? Find your why. Sometimes it finds you. Anytime I have a parent or athlete, like I saw Will Eames at a game recently, I called his games for like 2-3 years, and he went to D1 for his grad year, and it's like, to just reconnect with someone like him and be like, oh yeah, and kind of reminisce on the good times and catch up. Or anytime a parent's like, I live several states away, we love listening, like, yeah, so, maybe not as like heavy as what you described, but like forming those relationships. And it's like, you know what? I could do this for a little while longer. And I think for you, it's like, you're having fun. You're very, visible. I see you around everywhere. And every athlete I've ever asked about strength and performance, they bring you up, they mention you in a positive light. And now you do have that associate AD next to your name. So I'd say, you got the best of both worlds. You're having fun and you're on your way to where you want to be. And so that's terrific. Dr. Fears, my goodness, that was fun. I feel like I learned something. Hopefully our audience did as well. And anytime, hey, if you want to do this again, just hit me up. This was a lot of fun. So thanks for making the time.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate enough to, and I think I could give a full dissertation on technology these days in that weight room, how we use it. I think we do some different things. And I always say that I think we could talk about 20 different things for a day straight. It just, it is how we set our philosophy and how we work and do all that stuff. But no, it's good. I appreciate it. And like I said, I get to share a few things. I don't even know some of these people. I don't know anyone here even knows a few of these stories. And, to look at the past and reminisce and think back. And, it's always good to remember how you got here and, remember why you're here. So just even talking about that, it does it. It even, reinvigorates what you're thinking. Like a little bit of energy, and the semester's coming up. We got teams starting. We got I got a new hire coming in that obviously was a football player for us, which is huge. So he's not going to exactly be a hard one. He's a former intern, so that's easy. But like reinvigorate, especially and those guys too. Get my staff reinvigorated because we're ready to roll. I think everyone's chomping at the bit right now. We got a lot of guys that are tapping their foot, bouncing their knee, ready to get rolling. Because that's the type of people I want around me. I say that all the time. You got to have good energy. You got to be the right guy. And it's the type of guys we have there. And I'm there too. I'm not quite as young as them, maybe not quite as energetic as them sometimes, but no, that we're obviously excited about doing this interview and everything, kind of explain a few of those things, but also realizing that you're starting to feel that buzz again. It's almost, you're starting to get basketball games, and we're close to playing baseball and softball. Football comes in next week, and you're not 7.5 weeks away from spring ball at that point. And next thing you know, it's football season, and we're starting up 25-26 season. So, no, I appreciate you having me here and obviously talking about this stuff. And like I said, the story goes on, and there's some million things we could talk about.
Well, that's what we're here to do. We tell stories, and we can definitely have some more with you anytime. And 2 basketball teams that are competing at the top of the league right now, and a mess of sports getting ready to start. Baseball, softball has started practice, so got a fun second half of 24-25 coming up before it's July and the Chiefs are back, and we're looking ahead to another school year. But Dr. Fierce, thanks so much again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right.